Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Readings in Contemporary Poetry series. My name is Megan Whitko, and I'm an assistant curator here at DIA, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you to tonight's reading. As we all know, Vincent Katz is the curator of the Readings in Contemporary Poetry series, and over the past 5, going on now 6 years, we've had a really incredible group of poets come and read here at DIA Chelsea, and it's been a great honor to be continuing that series tonight. I particularly want to thank our 2 poets joining us this evening. We have CA Conrad and Cecilia Vicuña. I want to thank them both for so generously agreeing and accepting our invitation to join the series tonight. And I also want to extend a very heartfelt thank you to Dominique Levy Gallery, who provides major support for our poetry series, and we're very grateful to them for doing so. Additional support is provided by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, as well as our media sponsor, the Brooklyn Rail. And we also want to thank Brooklyn Brewery, who provides complimentary cold beverages as well. So lastly, I want to be sure to thank all of DIA's staff who help with the coordination of this series, and in particular, Francesca, Dan, Maria, Mary Catherine, Rachel, Malcolm, and Emma. So just a quick schedule for the evening. Following the first reader, we'll take a brief 10-minute intermission, and then we'll resume with the second speaker of the evening. And during that time, we'll have titles by both CA and Cecilia available for sale out there if you'd like to purchase. And following that, we'll have our second reader. So it's now my great pleasure to give a very warm welcome to Vincent Katz, who's going to introduce our first poet for this evening.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I know that there's other poetry readings that one can go to tonight, so I'm glad that you chose this one. And this is the second to last reading of the season. The last one will be on May 10th, and it will be Keith and Rosemary Waldrop, so please show up for that one as well. CA Conrad will be the first reader. An early bio of CA Conrad's says he's the son of white trash asphyxiation, whose childhood included selling cut flowers along the highway for his mother and helping her shoplift. He's the author of 8 books of poetry and essays, including A Beautiful Marsupial Afternoon and The Book of Frank. His latest book, Eco-Deviance, Somatics for the Future Wilderness, published by Wave Books in 2014, received the 2015 Believer Magazine Book Award. In 2015, Conrad was an artist in residence at the Headlands Center for the Arts in Sausalito, and he has received numerous other fellowships. Conrad lives and writes in Asheville, North Carolina. C.A. Conrad's book, Eco-Deviance, Somatics for the Future Wilderness, is composed of descriptions of rituals invented by Conrad, followed by poems written as a result of engaging in those rituals. As he puts it in his introduction, these rituals create what I refer to as an extreme present, where the many facets of what is around me, wherever I am, can come together through a sharper lens. End of quote. With the implication that this is true for the observer as well, or maybe, hopefully, there can be no such thing as an observer of one of Conrad's rituals, but rather only participants. We shall see. Conrad astutely observes human physical relations in the ritual Unknown Duration of Fear, dedicated to Dawn Lundy Martin. He observes that, quote, "You do not touch a stranger at the checkout counter unless it's an accident. You are not going to hold the stranger's hand while they cut meat because you will be called insane and asked to leave." End of quote. Many of the somatics involve engaging in just those activities which, not harmful in themselves and arising from the most natural impulses, do seem to provoke the most extreme reactions from the unsuspecting members of the public they are directed at. The resulting poems are different. The poems in Eco-Deviance meander, finding their own pace and language, occasionally but rarely erupting into the stronger emotions of the rituals. Here's the beginning of a human being realizes they are alone for the first time in 12 hours. To appropriate our dreaming together, we no longer asked for our deliverance. Near the end of the same poem, Conrad writes, I would love you if I knew how to make the song a better system, lit from the edges. Take a second to calm down, maybe another. Okay. So ultimately, these rituals and their concomitant poems are not about anger, but about connection. Even when that connection fails, desire for it fuels these poems. Prepare to engage. Please join me in welcoming CA Conrad.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Vincent. That was an amazing introduction. I'm excited to be here with Cecilia. It's very exciting. Well, I wanted to start off by saying that I've been working on a very long ritual right now across the nation that I'm calling Resurrect Extinct Vibration, one in which I listen to field recordings of recently extinct animals. More than half of the wild animals on the planet have vanished in the past 40 years. So it's because of those 40 years that these animals in particular, we have field recordings of them. So I lie on the ground and I saturate my body with starting at my feet. I put the sounds into my feet and then move up to my head. That's what I'm working on right now, but that's not what I'm going to be reading this evening. Just wanted to talk about that. What I'm going to be reading from this evening is the ritual that I did in Marfa, Texas. I was on a Lannan fellowship, and somebody told me, I'm not going to say who, that's rude. Somebody told me that I talk about class too much and that I shouldn't do that, so I'm going to do it. My mother, just briefly, not like spend the whole time, but my working class mother, when I told her that I received this fellowship and that they were flying me down to Texas and that I was having a house all to myself for a couple of months, she was suspicious. She thought that I was doing something that she and her friends would have done, basically, which was like running drugs or something. And I said, no, this is real. And she just couldn't believe it. She just absolutely couldn't believe it. I said, I know what you mean, Mom. It's amazing. There's all this money spent on bombs and drones. It's extraordinary that there's any money left over for a poet. So when I arrived in Marfa, the first thing I did was to spend a few days building this ritual. I'd always wanted to do a writing ritual where I do the same things every day for a series of days. It's sort of what I do anyway, but this was more complicated, and the labor of it was amazing. By the third day of doing this, I thought, oh wow, this is such a mistake. So I just started eating chia seeds and drinking carrot juice, and it's called Marfa Poetry Machine in 36 Things. I did 36 things a day for 36 days. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the list of the 36 things I did, and I have some images for those, and also I have a series of the poems that resulted from this ritual that I'll also be reading. You'll see them, they'll be along with the other images. I don't know if you ever get a chance, if you haven't been to Marfa and get a chance to go, I really can't tell you, because I don't know how to put it into words. It's one of those magical experiences where you're affected so deeply by this terrain. It was a type of terrain that I was unfamiliar with. And yeah, and the spirit of the land is there. And so these rituals I did would start before dawn and then after sunset. One, sage poets. Burn sage to honor a different living poet each morning, saying the poet's name out loud while wearing a ceramic hamsa the poet Erica Kaufman gave me. This morning, as every morning, with poetry as my strength, I honor the poet. 3, crystal supplement. Place the day's food in a glass bowl surrounded by crystals that have been programmed to boost cell proliferation and heighten organic vibrational pattern for greater nutritional gain. The steady pulse of crystal frequencies saturating plants, beans, and grains. 3, Reiki sunrise before sunrise. Watch sunrise on Edgar Cayce Institute Meditation Room webcam in Virginia Beach while giving Reiki to myself, preparing for the sun's arrival in Texas. 4, Reiki sunrise. These sunrises are probably the best sunrises I've ever seen in my life. Reiki sunrise. An hour later, watch sunrise on porch while giving myself Reiki. Setting my day by the sun plugs me into a natural clock. I will have 2 sunrises a day with 2 time zones, one online in Virginia Beach, another in Texas, but only one sunset to cheat the grave. Venus, point 3. Half moon parts my hair. We went AWOL years ago, a different interior location. We listen to owl songs now, another language made of many. Does long villain mean cruel for hours or tall? Almost got the answer in their tapering voices. Thin and thinner, a strong odor of questions, meat aisle with grotesque in a can. Cover him in glitter after sex, purple and gold and the rivers of it. 5, Yoko Molecular Infusion. While cooking breakfast, play the album Rising by Yoko Ono next to the stove, her music finding its way into the fiber of the food as she sings, listen to your heart, respect your intuition, make your manifestation. There is no limitation. Have courage, have rage, we're all together. 6, cell knitting. Chew each mouthful of breakfast 36 times, meditating on food cells, becoming my own cells of Yoko crystal infusion. 7, Elvis penetrating crystal. Meditate on a postage stamp of Elvis Presley, a gift from friend Jen McCreary, through a clear shaft of flawless citrine, the guardian gemstone of manifestation. 8, Elvis blackout. Wearing headphones, sitting inside a closet with door closed, listening to the length of a different Elvis song each day. Then as it finishes, take notes by flashlight. Home point 2. I love walking on flat surfaces. If mountains were flat, I would climb them all. A shot of gold in the seam, grafted from grown children of the gods. We are ordered to believe them, cocks shoved into mellow afterthoughts, clammy, groaning magic, turtle meat with a little hat and dress. Come see my little baby, gather round my little baby, pushing her carriage up the flat mountain down to the top. 9, Marfa gratitude. Standing in front of the house on Summer Street, taking a slow 360-degree view, grateful for the people who make Marfa what it is. You can surround yourself with the best art in the world, but what actually makes a town is its citizens, and Marfa is home to some of the most thoughtful people I've ever met. 10, long bench visualization. sit on a log bench in Summer Street Park, gaze at the landscape without blinking, close eyes and remember what was seen, open eyes and look for what was missed. With each day, the contents of the landscape grows more complete inside. Later, while falling asleep, I visualize the park, recalling the details clearer and clearer throughout the 36 days. 9. Giant installments. Watch 5.5 minutes of the movie Giant that was filmed in Marfa 1955, starring Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, and James Dean. 5.5 minutes times 36 is the length of the film. Quote, "Bick, you should have shot that fellow a long time ago. Now he's too rich to kill." Unquote. A line from Uncle Bolly's. I'm just saying. 12. Color mates. Focus on a color outside the Pueblo market and the parking lot, buildings, or the sky. A yellow car or a bit of bright blue chewing gum or an orange cat. Then walk the market aisles to find the same color on cans and other packaging and read the ingredients like on a can of peas, as if it is the legend to a map. And ask the label out loud, "How are these peas showing the way out of darkness to the sanctioned interior?" I really loved seeing the half moon marshmallow of Lucky Charms, just really matching up with that gum. Mars Point 1. To be gone a constant desire, embarrassed for the giant leaning in for love. We had enough of the dance number, but the whirling begins, it just starts. Silos full of air, no more corn, no more wheat. Watching myself for full details in a strange man's pants. We let the soldier board the plane, shot in head 3 days later. "Why are you angry?" you said. "Why are you not?" I said. 17. Railroad pyramid. Climb hill near Marfa Railroad pen. Face across tracks, find 3 stationary objects, then imagine a line connecting them. Study contents of triangle, especially look for the large, dark chicken. She lives there, and she is a beautiful chicken. 18. Chicken songs. Sing to the large, dark chicken, even if she is not visible. But sing like a chicken, sing one very large, dark chicken serenade she might appreciate. 19. Marfa Hibachi. Stand at intersection of Highland Avenue and San Antonio Street, imagining a restaurant with a giant canvas at the entrance with brushes and paints for customers to use. If a customer adds to the painting, they get a free bottle of wine for their table. The choice to not paint is $1,000 for a glass of water, a salad, or a cookie, the high price of denying collaboration. 20. Judd's Fallen Giant. For years, I have viewed Donald Judd's work in museums as an immersed study on chakras, spinal discs aligned and often lit from within. In Marfa, I drive down Route 67 south to see Judd's massive concrete blocks in the desert, like the remains of a fallen giant 1 kilometer in length, spinal cord fossils with flesh of Texas wind and sand. One afternoon, 2 coyotes were having sex between the 3rd and 4th vertebrae from the maw of the desert, a burst of pleasure beside the fallen. 21. Marfa Aloha. Give a stranger a poetry broadside. 22. I don't know. Sorry. Oh. Sorry, I just got a little out of order here. There we are. Sentinel pine. All my life I have made friends with trees. I take my magnifying glass to study the giant pine growing behind an abandoned building near Pueblo Market. She is tall and old, and Donald Judd must have taken notice of her perfect symmetry of branches, holding herself in spaces of green, brown, and angelic exhale of crown. There was an ant, and I think she was the same ant, there most days crawling up the narrow ravines of bark. I dabbed a little brown rice syrup on the bark, always eaten, always relished. 14. Aphrodite's element. Place a penny on railroad tracks next to the post office. Copper is the metal of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. And we must not forget this, ever, that copper is her element on earth. Find flattened pennies from the day before and leave them on the sidewalk, squashed heads up. Sotol snake saunter. Walk a snake pattern through the long rows of enormous sotol plants at the corner of Oak and High, outside Donald Judd's Chinati Foundation. This building houses the work of artist John Chamberlain and was originally known as Fort D.A. Russell. In an essay, Judd wrote on the building and plants, quote, "This large right angle was planted in a corresponding grid of sotol plants, an agave of the area from which a liquor like tequila is made, just in case," unquote. Reader, do you also love the just in case at the end? 16. Shut up and slide. At the Travis E. Self Memorial Park, climb the sliding board. Take notes at the top. Send the notebook down the slide, then follow it no matter who watches. Mars Point 2. To worship tininess of a martyr, observe shrinking church in rearview mirror. The black deer, it turns out, was beige, a tan doe covered in flies. Flesh of shame is nearly the shame of flesh. Pressing an unstable clock to cactus with 1, 2, 3 counts of recalibration. Fuck you who asked for forgiveness instead of permission. All clocks are precarious, inscrutable windows. "22. Desert Witches. Read 5 pages a day of Mark Simmons's 180-page book, Witchcraft in the Southwest, Spanish and Indian Supernaturalism on the Rio Grande. I found myself rooting for the witches, no matter what misogynistic and bigoted prejudices the author attempted to instill. 23. Witch Dance Workout. Each day, sit on the floor to follow Mary Wigman's witch dance like a Jane Fonda workout video for the spirit. I believe Wigman may be the first contemporary dancer to consciously use dance as trauma release. In an interview, she said, quote, "I was once completely confused and unhappy. I locked myself in the guest room of my parents' home, and in great consternation, I sobbed and cried because I did not know anymore what to do with my life. There on the spot, I discovered suddenly that in all my unhappiness, I was moving, and I was moving in such a way that I had never moved before. And also suddenly, this moving became an expression, a speaking out," unquote. 24. Sweet potato baby doll. The grocer said my sweet potato is organic, but I love all sweet potatoes, organic, or filled with toxic sprays and fucked up genes. I cradle my sweet potato, breastfeed my sweet potato, rock her back and forth, singing her name, Tara, Tara, oh my little Tara. My mother said this would have been my name if I'd been born a girl. I drew eyes, mouth, and painted a purple glitter skirt on sweet potato baby doll. I carry her with me in my bag to show to people I meet. Would you like to see sweet potato baby doll? She is my avatar potato with a bit of lithium quartz embedded in her head to receive the transmissions of her day, which is also our day. Oh, I miss her. Saturn Point 1. Butterfly in a tissue box, not a real one, a painting, a monarch. One more sign for anguish poured and poured, a choice to feel or stack bricks between. I was sad when my talented friend started designing television commercials. He told me to grow up. But the rocks in the desert I touched signal an endless new place, something without money saying, never tire of demanding love for the world. 25. Regret reversal spell. Close eyes and think of an embarrassment from the past. Imagine the former self in the middle of the situation, shrugging and laughing. 26. We're all cogs of a beautiful machine. Fun. Find one natural item a day, a twig, little stone, feather, a bit of fluff on a breeze, and wind it, twist it into my longest strands of hair. Leave it tangled in my hair while writing, then untangle it. 27. Cogs of a Marfa poetry machine. Arrange found natural items on back porch, a growing machine. 19. Page 36. Read page 36 of different books written by former Lannan Fellows. For instance, quote, expunging Palestinians politically or physically from Israel's body politic is an idea with broad support within the admittedly narrow Zionist political spectrum, unquote. From Ali Abinamah's book, The Battle for Justice in Palestine, from Haymarket Books. Uranus point 4. The only goal in my last life was to come back a poet. We had to leave, which meant backwards in the dance. Check vital signs in the meadow, or maybe it was a rooftop. I don't know how I convinced them to let me do it. I used to think it was because I pleased them. Nothing mattered after climbing stairs to see you for the first time in centuries. Yoko Molecular Infusion Part 2. While cooking supper, play the 2007 album Yes, I'm a Witch by Yoko Ono next to the stove, her music finding its way into the fiber of the food as she sings, yes, I'm a witch, I'm a bitch, I don't care what you say. My voice is real, my voice is truth, I don't fit in your ways. Each time we don't say what we want to say, we're dying. 30. Cell knitting part 2. Chew each mouthful of my supper 36 times, meditating on food cells becoming my own cells of Yoko crystal infusion. 31. Reiki sunset. Watch sunset over the desert at end of 3rd Street while giving myself Reiki. 32. Lost horse. Have one shot of Jack Daniels at the Lost Horse Saloon to meet people and enjoy this space, where one night a woman rode a beautiful white horse into the bar. Asked Tim Johnson at the Marfa Book Company. We were having a drink together. The lost horse always finds its way. Pluto point 2. They requested a happier poem. I want to stop and say this before I go any further. I'll start over. While I was this is literally what happened this day. I'd been in. I'm not going to say who. Once again, that's rude. But I was invited by the editor of a magazine to send poems, and I did. And they wrote back saying, "Could you send us a happier poem?" And I wrote back and I said, "No, no." Pluto point 2. They requested a happier poem, the distinct sound of a backstab. Up in the stomach, getting a fix on the signal. Leave vomit on the seat and tell them we are not sorry for any of it. Poke surrounding haystack in search of a slow song. Excesses haunted by our poverty of benevolence. But we grab a broader patch of shoulder, corrupt the smallest eyes in the freshly printed poem. 33. Marfa lights. Look for the Marfa lights at the viewing station on Route 90. Every night I saw them, sometimes as balls of white light rising from the earth, other nights riding the air sideways and changing colors. Someone told me they were reflected car lights. I said, "Oh, really? Then what were they in 1888 and earlier, long before the metal horse arrived in Marfa? Yeah, if you ever get to Marfa, you have to go and see these lights. They look just like, that's a picture of them, and they rise out of the earth, and there were several people, I'm not making this up, in Marfa who told me that the lights sometimes will chase your car down the road. These 3 people had that happen. So there's this consciousness to this light that comes out of the earth, and it just follows you down the highway. "34, for the architects we live with. Each night I play the CD Duet for Pencil and Pen, Electric Dirt, composed by Christine Olenichik. Then I walk from room to room with a flashlight to study the house designed by architect Kristen Bunkmeyer. I pause in each room to imagine her original blueprints of the building and say out loud, 'This is where I write in Kristen's drawing. This is where I play music in Kristen's drawing. This is where I cook, eat, and this is where I dream in Kristen's drawing.' 35, Peccary Vigil. Sit quietly on front porch, hoping to spot the tribe of javelinas who like to eat the prickly pear cactus in the yard. Several nights there they were, little chattering tusks, hairy, stinky, and glorious to behold. 36. Sage Poets Part 2. Burn sage to honor a deceased poet each evening. This evening, as every evening, with poetry as my strength, I honor the poet. For instance, R.I.P. Amiri Baraka, who died the first week I was in Marfa. Pluto Point 4. We win from time to time, abandoned above the adaptable positions of the losing. We risk everything in thinking we can navigate Maverick of the Green. Carry a bottle of wine into the pumpkin patch, looking for a new way to angle the old songs. Sell me a ticket to your dance, please. I believe in the strength of poetry. A little stone in the moth helps balance her on my breath. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure to introduce Cecilia Vicuña. Cecilia Vicuña is a poet, visual artist, filmmaker, and activist whose work addresses pressing concerns including ecological destruction, human rights, and cultural homogenization. In her poems, she uses humor and literary inquiry as means to engage with themes of language and memory, with particular attention to decay and exile. Vicuña has published 22 art and poetry books, including Sabor a mí, originally published in 1973 and republished by Chain Links in 2011, Cloudnet in 2000, Inston from Kelsey Street Press in 2001, Spit Temple, the selected performances of Cecilia Vicuña, edited and translated by Rosa Alcalá from Ugly Duckling Press in 2012, and Kunter Co. A new volume of selected poems is forthcoming from Kelsey Street Press in 2016. Vicuña is the co-editor with Ernesto Livon of the Oxford Book of Latin American Poetry, a bilingual anthology. Her art has been exhibited at and collected by the Tate Modern in London, Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Chile, Santiago, and the Museum of Modern Art in New York. She lives and works in New York City. Art historian Roberto Tejada has observed, Vicuña's work at its very essence is a way of remembering, as if exile and recall joined to unravel an autobiography in debris as one personal story within a larger narrative, end of quote. During the summer of 1973, Vicuña made an object a day, an effort, she explains in Sabor a mí, in support of the Chilean revolutionary process. In essence, all her work partakes of a similar ritualistic process, sometimes expressing outrage, other times healing, and others simply forging important connections, both synchronically and diachronically. Vicuña is fond of saying that her poems are composed in performance and only later collected into book form. That is certainly true of Spit Temple, her collection of performance transcriptions. What is amazing in person or reading the book is the precision of her word choices. Like any improviser, she is making lightning-quick decisions that sometimes dead end, but even the dead ends are fascinating. Most of the time, however, her mental, physical, oral, and emotional movements are finely tuned to lead to another place. And getting to that place, the audience is amazed and gratified. In her poem, Clepsydra, Vicuña writes, "I relied from the beginning on my stupidity and general lack of talent. Always I shipwrecked among nouns and verbs. I am still, I feel, a shitty preacher. I enlighten no one but me. On the contrary, enlightening herself, she enlightens and delights those around her. Tonight, the lucky ones are us." Please join me in welcoming Cecilia Vicuña.
End of reading. No. Salud. We probably took up all our time. But it's not my fault. It's CA Conrad's fault. Because since you spoke so beautifully of your rituals for the extinct animals, I had to bring the animals just to be next to you. The notion that 50% of the wild animals are already gone. Today, is this working? Yes. Okay, because I can't tell. Perhaps it's too close. Okay. Today, the vote was taking place in Wisconsin. I haven't heard the results. Have you? No. But we have hopes. In any case, I recently found this old anthology, published, I believe, in 1986. And it says, on the cover, a hand made of sheet mica from the indigenous American people known in this era as the Hopewell culture. This is the woodland Indians, probably from Wisconsin. Many of the images and symbols they worked with are similar to the early Vedic culture in India. They have interlaced snakes, swastika signs, and figures meditating in the lotus posture. In the Vedic tradition, the right hand held up open means fear not. This in India is the Abhaya Mudra. And because we are in the era of fear, the era of fear not, I wanted for all of us to do just that. Fear not. Fear not. It seems that if you do that, you can grow across dimensions. You can go through life and death if you are in the fear not state. Gracias. The anthology is called Fire Over Water, the condition before transition. Water is a wet flame, Novalis said. And somebody said, the more closely you look at the word, the more distantly it looks back. In this ancient anthology, I published a little work that's called Palabrar Más, meaning to open word more, or to work with words as the only weapons. And this is a work that began in 1966. It turns out that as a teenager in Chile, I lived at the foot of this sacred mountain, El Plomo Glacier. A glacier of eternal snows, now melting fast. The Incas placed an offering in its summit, a little boy, an 8-year-old boy. She walked all the way from Cusco up to El Plomo Glacier, which is in what is now Santiago. He walked all the way to the summit in his little ponchito. And that is the way that at the top of the mountain he went to sleep under the snow to never wake up. His dreams entered my dreams, and my poetry began at the foot of the glacier. A word came into the room and began to dance. Baila, 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 una palabrita. Enamorado. The word that did the dancing was the word enamorados. Enamorados in Spanish means in love. But you open up, it becomes in love purple. Purple in love. En amor And so I call them divinations. And I open the word divination. To divine is to ascertain the divine. The word is the divination of what we are now. I don't see with my eyes, words are my eyes. Octavio Paz said I was going to dine with Octavio Paz on the night of the day he got the Nobel Prize. Goodbye, Cecilia, I never saw him again. Those who see, who dedicate themselves to observing the course and order ways of heaven. How is night divided? Those who are watching, reading, they carry us, they guide us, they tell us the way. That is the Aztec poem transcribed by Fray Bernardino de Sahagún. Divine to divide, the main divider, the do, the divide, the two, going apart from each other. Words want to speak, to listen to them is the first task. To open words is to open oneself. A history of being could be a history of words. But this is not what we will do. Name, the word name seems to be a compressed sentence signifying being for which there is a search. That's the Gratilo by Plato. Vincent Katz said yesterday, nobody quotes Plato anymore. What can we do? Name, the word name, it really means namanamunem. That's the portion of food you are allowed to eat. So your name is your chance to get a bite. Think of the moral code of monkeys. If a hoarder monkey takes more food than the other monkeys, he is shunned. I don't know if I pronounce it right. Push aside, and the poor fucker dies of hunger after that. Think of such a moral code. We inherited the code but fucked it up. That's our gift. All we do is mess it up. I don't know the time. We probably went. How much time we have? We have more time because this is a fat one. But I do not intend to read more. Just a little bit. Or perhaps we just drop it. No, I cannot drop it yet. Because there's so many wonderful things. For example, when I was invited to come here, I thought, what should I be writing, meaning reading, saying now in this moment? And I thought, oriri. Oriri is the origin. And the other word, you see the whistling inside the machine? The machines do that. They don't like the whistling voice, huh? And they take their own agency. This is the robotic world we're in. Fucker! Okay. So, So think of this. Having lost the memory of the original meaning, we can invent an etymon, a true meaning, one that contains within what the word will be, to go backward and inward at the same time, to contemplate the origins and the future, the ancient and the current signified. Considerar el origen es consideralmente contemplar el oriri, el salir de los astros. Think of that ancient invention of the word oriri. Oriri really means the coming out of the stars. That means that the origin is about to happen every evening as the stars come out. The origin is beginning again. Think of that word sidereal. Considerar means to consider is to think with the stars what we have forgotten to do. How could we do that? That may be the reason those lights in your poem come up. The lights in the desert, maybe they are stars from the bottom of the earth. Desire, the word desire contains that particle called sire, which means to shine. Desire is shining, the thirst for light. Go to page 23, it says here. Shine the light on this page 23. Desire, from the Latin desiderare, to long for, formed like considerare, to observe the stars carefully. Sidus, a star constellation from swayed to shine. Who is shining in the desire to shine, but the shining itself? Un poquito de agüita. I just came back from Chile, and it is a very weird thing to perform in Español, because I have become such a gringa, believe it or not. And so I go there, and a sort of new creature shows up. And, an elderly woman that is so dirty-minded. It's just amazing. And so over there, they don't think that if you're old, you're into nasty stuff. But it ain't so. So somebody said, this was here, not over there. Woman infestation. You are the infestation of the woman. I like that we are an infestation, and we cannot be avoided. I recently posted, look at that, posted. Yes, I posted my Twitter, and I tweeted my pot, and my pot tweeted me. And what it did, the potting Twitter, is I posted this notion that a woman was researching menstruation. And she went for years and couldn't find any funders for her research, because menstruation only happens to half the population. So population, menstruation is zero important. I am reading this little note. It says that I gave a reading in Ithaca, and it was about language and naval performance. Who knows where that naval performance went? La niña desnuda, criada sin piel, desnuda de piel. The braiding of knotted chromosome structures on the omphalos stone, said someone discussing the Delphi oracles. I was reading perhaps the Darwin's Pharmacy by Richard Doyle, and it probably said they were able to enter deeply into what they perceived. There's a little note saying illusion seen, cited from internet, illusion, however that is pronounced, eleusis, eleusis, sin cáscara nada, abandonada, entrada en la noche estrellada, los sapos nocturnos, yo soy la que trabaja de noche, la puerta de la noche, el sonido y la conciencia del sonido no se había inventado. That's the best part, the part that you don't get. Because no one can get it. It says mentira. I will never translate. I was reading this guy, Richard Doyle. Have you read him? It's a weird one. He calls himself a rhetorician of science, un retórico, retoricante, recoricotado. But he asks some wonderful questions. He's wondering how these ancient oral peoples, how did they practice a science about states that could not be written down? As if the state needed to be written down. Isn't that a funny, funny notion? Data that cannot be captured, focus on the mantric power of language. And he said, we need to create a laughter canon. Didn't like that. Imagine the people that will be listening to this. It sounds like the termin. But this morning when I woke up, I live under this pear tree, a pear tree that we planted and is glorious in bloom right now. And when I saw it in bloom, I was so lighted by the light of these flowers. But I come looking at them and I see they have been blasted, destroyed, messed about by the brutal winds, the global warming winds, running Tribeca down. And I go down to take my little tea. The little tea has an oracle note, as you may have noticed. I glue it here for you to see, right there, like your Elvis Presley stamp. It says, Earth loves in flowers. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I ask my pear tree, can you love? Have the petals cut in half. Destroyed flowers, can you love? La flor maltratada de the flower, la flor roja, la flor violada, flor muerta. The eyes of the bees shaped the flowers. If you remove the bees, who will shape the flowers? Have you noticed that with the extinction of the pollinators, all the gardeners are not taking notice of what will happen to their flowers? This will be the first time in billion years. What will be this planet not laughing without flowers? But since we're almost running out of time, look at all the things I had prepared. Will not happen. It's the fault of the threads. They like to play. So what can one do? But since Vincent, you announced the selected that will come out, one of the wonderments about being an ancient person is that you get to have a selected. Like it is possible to do that. But in any case, Rosa Alcalá, who is the master of the impossible, she has created these incredible translations of these poems I wrote when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I used to undress completely and open my legs and put my little typewriter between my legs. And I typed so fast, and the sun would come in the room and would hit my clitoris. That would be the last poem I will read you. But if I can find it, yes, because it's related to the origin. But the poems I wrote clitoris-oriented hardly ever mentioned the clitoris, but in secret they were guided by it. So this one is called Teresa la Imbécil. And La Imbécil was the most handsome girl. I always wrote love poems for the girls. And Teresa la Idiota. In reality, my loves are the strange box of a polished doll, the blonde's eyes appearing fixed to her hips long after midnight. The garret always singular to loosen a massive mane across her back. Its strands thick and fine, draping her otter-like chin. Deliberately she'd peer out from the wall, and nothing could be seen but the shadow of her breasts. Hidden beneath marmots of hair, and lovely was her skin's radiance at that unusual hour. Her waist gyrations easily discerned as bees through the grass. The window neither open nor closed. What I saw, yellow like crystal, rose from sleepy thighs. Amassed in unseemly tourniquets. Everything before me a pale shimmer of hairs, fanning delicately to reveal the pink or green skin I no longer know. Of hips a million centimeters from my gaze. Okay, is this the actual end? Okay, very good. So you'll miss the clitoris poem next time. Good night.